The weekend's events surrounding COVID. We, as you know, have been enforcing the new ordinance that we have in our city, and that limits the number of patrons at certain categories of businesses. We did have some calls over the weekend on that, but we found that most businesses are in compliance on that, which we really have appreciated. So thank you to the business community who is taking that seriously and who is adopting those ordinances into their business practices. If you have any questions on that, you can continue to go to siouxfalls.org/COVID-19. You know, we saw more cases in South Dakota and in Lincoln and Minnehaha counties over the weekend. There were several hundred more tests that were run yesterday that we're waiting on those results today. I want to just go on record and say that this will be the new normal now. We will see more cases daily. And that will continue to happen. What we continue to be watching with the data, this is why I wanted to bring that back out, is we are trying to stay in the blue. And that is important because we're trying to ensure that our hospital care is available for when people need it as a result of COVID, because we know they will need it. This is where you get in trouble. This is where we're hanging out right now. And so the measures that we're taking continue to put us in a good spot. People have asked about PPE and ventilator capacity and other things. We continue to feel confident about where we sit in all those areas. Now, what we're watching, and I actually have a call at 1:30 with one of our healthcare systems today, is we're really looking at the data modeling that they're putting forward to determine if and when our surge comes. And we will have a surge. It's just, is our surge an apex peak, or is our surge more like this, okay? What we want is a slower, more rounded surge. And so we'll have more information even after our presentation today with one of our healthcare partners. As you know, legislature's meeting today to consider some emergency bills, and I hope they consider passing a few of these. There's one I want to highlight, and that's 936. Bill 936, there's a couple amendments to that which would extend public health emergency powers down to county and local jurisdictions, and will clarify the authority that we have as local government to be able to carry out the directives from the president and the governor by giving us clear language and providing for emergency adoption of ordinances. So if you would like to weigh in on that, they're debating that today. You can go to the legislature website, look for the special emergency session, and you can send feedback on that bill and encourage them to pass the amendments to 936. Also just had a meeting about an hour and a half ago with several of our banking community leaders to talk about the impact of the CARES Act that was passed on Friday. It's been 72 hours since that was passed, and let me tell you, there's a lot to unpack from that bill. But the cornerstone of that bill is the payroll protection program that will allow small businesses of 500 employees or less to keep their employees on their payroll. What we're really trying to do with that bill is keep people out of unemployment and collecting unemployment insurance and unemployment benefits, keep them on their payroll instead. And so more information's coming on that as these banks figure that out. I would tell any business owner out there, if you have a question about the CARES Act or the Payroll Protection Program, your first point of contact, talk to your bank. Talk to your banker. They will get you pointed in the right direction. People have continued to ask about our parks. Our parks continue to stay open. Our parks are open. But social distancing, 6-foot social distancing is obviously strongly recommended and encouraged in our parks right now. And so, yes, I have people reporting kids playing basketball and playing soccer, and they shouldn't be doing this, and Mayor, you need to do something about that. And we're looking at that and determining if we have to be more heavy-handed in the parks. Honestly, the parks are the one outlet for a lot of people right now. And so we'll be pretty lenient with our parks right now so people can continue to get out. I know for myself, went on a jog yesterday. As I meet people, they'd step 3 feet off the sidewalk. I stepped 3 feet off the sidewalk. We'd go past each other, and then we'd reconvene after we were past. So people are noticing how they need to act in our parks and on our sidewalks and so forth. Lastly, just a few fun things. all right? For the kids, continue to post art in your windows. This has been a bright spot. A lot of artwork all across our city. Use the hashtag #SFStayAtHomeArt. We're literally getting hundreds of submissions to that. We're going to pick some of the best ones and give some prizes out to some kids for that. 3:30 today, kids. Join me on my Facebook page. We're going to have a Facebook live chat to talk about COVID, why you don't have to worry about COVID, why it's okay to worry, and we'll have a kind of a candid conversation around that. And then lastly, tonight, a cool thing that's been organized by our community and has really taken off is we're going to have some drones and helicopters flying over our city tonight, capturing some footage between 9 and 9:15 as we light up the sky. So we're asking people to get out your cell phones, get your lights, get your flashlights, get lanterns, wave them around for 15 minutes. We'll capture that footage, and there's going to be some neat video that will come from that to show solidarity and unity as a community as we work through this. So those are the updates I wanted to give today. I would open up the floor for any questions that anyone might have for myself, my city attorney, as well as our public health director also here.
When the surge does happen, what are some of the precautionary options the city is kind of weighing in case ventilators and that kind of stuff does become short, or capacity does become short?
Sure. So I'm going to invite Jill up here. The question was, when the surge does happen, what are some of the precautionary measures that the city is taking with vent capacity and things like that with our healthcare systems?
Well, that's one good reason why we have a unified command. That's why we have both Sanford and Navarra partnering with us to be part of the decisions, the forward thinking that we're and how we're anticipating. Decisions we're making today are the things that are going to get us here. And so once we get to that point, if we start seeing that we're exceeding our capacity, that's when it's too late. Honestly, right now is what we have to be really doing as a community so that we can flatten that curve. And so, but as far as we're continuing to every day sit down, we're talking through where are they at, what are they seeing? You know, right now they're really in a good place right now. We're waiting for that surge to start. And it's hopefully all the actions that we're taking as a community right now that are going to prevent us from that increasing too far above this line right here. So I hope that answers your question.
I think the other thing I'll just say on that is we talk about the peak. You know, this is obviously a peak, and this is a peak. It's good peak, bad peak, okay? So there is even, disagreement's too strong of a term, but differing opinions on when we will peak in the state between all of our healthcare organizations, between the State Department of Health and our healthcare partners. So we're continuing to refine data so we can get to a universal kind of peak analysis to make sure we're all kind of singing from the same sheet of music on when we expect that peak. Because if one thinks we're going to peak in September and one thinks we're going to peak in June, well, that's a very different response. And so we need to ensure that all of our modeling is the same, and I think we're slowly getting there with our healthcare partners because we're relying on their data. We're relying on the data of our healthcare partners, State Department of Health, to tell us the steps we need to take so we can prepare for when that peak is. If we're not going to peak till September, let's say, well, then we aren't shutting down businesses now, okay? Because we don't have to yet if that's what the data tells us. So that's what's determining our actions. When I say we're looking at science and data to determine if and when we have to take steps, that's what we're using.
Question from our newsroom. They were curious if we know how many are hospitalized with COVID in Sioux Falls right now.
We don't have that. And nor do I believe the healthcare organizations are providing that information for privacy and compliance reasons, I believe. Is that correct, Jill? Yeah.
Would that be good public information for us to know that there's a certain number at each hospital to just as we're trying to disseminate information.
Yeah. I can't answer that. That'd be a question for the healthcare organizations to answer that question.
So as of right now, all businesses in Sioux Falls are remaining open. You're not mandatoring them to be closed or anything like
No
that?
business is required to be closed right now. Some have voluntarily chosen to be closed. Others are adhering to a more strict set of ordinances if they fall within the category that we passed last Thursday. But every business is able to be open. Some are adopting and innovating in new ways in order to try and keep their doors open and keep their employees paid. So businesses are open.
Can you speak on the bill regarding payroll? Obviously, I'm not well enough versed on it. If you can shed some light on it.
Yeah, the Payroll Protection Program will allow employers and nonprofits who have 500 employees or less to get 2.5 times their annual payroll based on a period of time from 2019. Okay, this is how confusing this is. And they will be able to use those dollars to continue to pay their employees. And some of that will be forgivable. It will be turned from a loan into almost a grant program. So some of those dollars will be forgivable to the businesses. And so the point of that being, well, you can lay off all your employees, and now they go to the state and they collect unemployment benefits, and it costs the state on that end. They want to keep them employed instead, shift those federal dollars over here, so that when the economy turns, they're ready and they don't have to hire again, and they got the right people in place. So the challenge is, if a hotel has 100 employees and they only have work for 50, well, they can keep those other 50 on payroll because of the bill, but what are they going to do? What role are they going to play? And so you're asking businesses to say, well, if you're a hotel, it's a good time to do a deep sanitary dive into your whole property. It's a good time to repaint rooms. It's a good time to do some of those things so you're ready when you open for business. Say, we've completely top to bottom sanitized this place. This is, so we're asking businesses to start thinking like that.
And this bill passed over the weekend?
It passed on Friday.
Passed on Friday.
Passed the House. And yep.
How crucial is that to, I guess, keep the unemployment fund from dropping?
It's huge. About 1,000% increase in unemployment claims since COVID began. So it's an incredible strain on the unemployment fund. This is essentially somewhat of a supplement to that, or a different way to keep people employed and paid other than unemployment insurance. So it's huge. Can't come quick enough for a lot of businesses and families.
Just curious on that, can the city of Sioux Falls, who you're a big employer, can you tap into that, or because you're a government, no?
We can. One, we're over the employee threshold of 500, and two, it's only for for-profit businesses and nonprofits.
So how is your city of Sioux Falls? Are you furloughing? Are you?
We're not furloughing. That's a good question. I will say that we have suspended hiring right now, both seasonal and full-time employees. And we're doing that not to put a panic into our team, but to say this is the smart thing to do right now. We'll get through this period. So what we're having to do is have some of our full-time employees consider adjusting the work they do to some of the stuff that's normally filled by our part-time staff. We don't know if our pools will be open this summer. So to hire several hundred lifeguards right now and start putting them on payroll when we may not be able to, keep them employed is not very responsible. So we have put a hiring freeze in place right now.
And you haven't laid anyone off?
No layoffs, no furloughs from the city. Sorry, I didn't read those back. We didn't lay anyone off, was the question. Okay, thank you guys for your questions today. Appreciate it.